Welcome into the Bad Fan. College football is upon us. College game day, Saturday mornings with cool fall kickoffs. It doesn't get much better than that, and it's back. And what will the college football playoff shape up to be this season? The Heisman frontrunners. We'll talk about that today on the Bad Fan. Plus, a look at one of the largest transfer windows in soccer history as deadline day just passed. Your journey discussing all of this with the Bad Fan begins right now. Hello and welcome in. I'm your host, Cole Carter, and I'm glad you have tuned into another edition of the Bad Fan. As you can see, my friend Brandon Pasnick is alongside me today in the proverbial studio, and I see he has his Buckeyes jersey on tonight. Brandon, how are you feeling coming into week one of the college football season?
Wow, it's here. I wasn't very excited for it last week, but I went and saw, like I said last episode, the best damn band in the land play. Almost made me cry, to be completely honest with you. Just the sound of the horns, the drum line, everything. And I couldn't be more excited. I could not be more excited.
I know it's starting to creep up on me too. I'm excited just to get onto the field, get to experience some college football atmosphere in person. It's been
tell us what you're doing this year. I don't know if we covered that on the pod yet.
I've stepped into a creative photography position with Georgia State's athletic program. So this upcoming Saturday, the 3rd, first game of the season up in Columbia against South Carolina, the Gamecocks. Georgia State is looking to upset them on their home turf under the lights at Williams-Brice Stadium. So I'll get the chance to be there and cover some of the action, which I'm really excited about. And I hope the Gamecock fans bring it, but I hope the team takes the L. But anything can happen. It'll be a cool experience nonetheless. And I know
we need some clap emojis in the comments. Please get the clap emojis going. Yeah, that's going to be so cool.
Good, man. College football is here. I was thinking about today. I said the cool kickoffs. I'm so ready for fall weather to be here. Putting on the layers, a nice warm jacket. Man, a cool breeze and I'm ready. I'm ready for it. But it's good to see it. Who's that number? Is it number 7 on the jersey?
Number 7. I don't know how old this is, to be honest. It could have been a number of players. Ted Ginn is the first one that really comes to mind.
That's what I was thinking.
This was the era.
Hey, we'll give him the credit there.
Yeah. But CJ Stroud, who we're going to talk about a little bit later, is rocking number 7 at the quarterback position. So very excited to see what he can do this year.
Yeah, as we said, the college football games have kicked off opening weekend. You had some of the week 0 games, like the one like Nebraska, Northwestern, in which Scott Frost once again begins losing games for Nebraska. Vanderbilt took care of business out in Hawaii. But there's some big headliners this weekend. You had number 5 Notre Dame versus your guys, the Buckeyes, Ohio State. College game day will be at that one. That's an incredible first game this season.
Gosh,
are you feeling confident against this Notre Dame team?
Being a Buckeye fan is interesting. You know, you have great recruits, you have great players. It should be not a walk in the park, but you should be handling business. I'm just afraid that Notre Dame will be the team that shows up first, and it'll have to go deep into the second half for the Buckeyes to win. I don't really know how to feel. I'm obviously very excited. I think we'll win. I think the spread is like 17.5 or something crazy. So I don't know if we'll win by that much. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I know when Georgia has played Notre Dame the past couple of seasons here and there, it's been some really exciting atmospheres. And I can only imagine the atmosphere is going to be pretty incredible on Saturday night. Having game day there is going to draw in some crowds, and obviously being probably the nightcap on whatever ABC will be pretty incredible too. So it's going to have the atmosphere. It's just a matter of Ohio State can bring it. CJ Stroud is going to be all eyes on him. They're expecting big things from him. Potential Heisman candidate. I saw that thing this week. He bought his whole team $500 suits.
So he said, you have a $500 gift card. Go get some nice suits and get ready for the game.
So he's
pretty nice.
He's season ready. The boys will be looking sharp coming off the bus on Saturday. But I have pretty high expectations for Ohio State. The big thing with them is just defense. They've always been pretty solid on offense. Playing the Big Ten, there's usually some prolific offenses, and it's just a matter of, when it comes to the playoff, let's just say Alabama or Georgia comes along, how their defense can handle those teams. But it's an exciting time to be a Buckeye fan. That's a great
point. Yeah, it really is. That's a great point. Our defense last year is really what cost us the season. I think our offense could have scored 50 points a game, and our defense would have let up 56. So if they can shore up, we brought in the guy from Oklahoma State, the coach, I think the defensive coordinator. I think that's right. Oklahoma State sounds right. So it'll be his first game this weekend. Really interesting to see what he can bring, what type of defensive, packages and, intensity he can bring there. If they figure that out and that starts clicking there, they're going to be a scary team for the rest of the season. So,
yeah. And I'm excited. Georgia is more or less hosting Oregon. Oregon's coming to play at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is, Atlanta is only a couple miles away realistically from Athens, and Georgia already plays there twice a year, it seems like. So
they get 3 home games every year.
Right. So it's really nothing special for the Dog fans, but they're coming in ranked 3rd on the season, reigning national champions. Oregon coming in, stealing Georgia's defensive coordinator, Dan Lanning. He'll be the new head coach of the Ducks. As Mario Cristobal, I think, went to Miami. And so Oregon, a team that's been on that playoff perimeter really since they had their last not playoff appearance, but their national championship appearance was at 2014 against Florida State, I want to say was.
Against Ohio State. Where they lost, in the playoff.
So I think it was 15 they played Ohio State, and they lost to Florida. Or they played Florida State when Jameis had that horrible game in the Rose Bowl, I think.
Yeah.
But it was the same season, I guess. So Oregon looking to kind of become a perennial playoff program. Obviously, coming to new head coach for the past couple of years, they've had some turnover, but hopefully Dan Lanning can bring that Georgia, nature of being, hunkering down and playing good defense, bringing that to a Pac-12 team might be the difference maker as the Pac-12 evolves and these conferences are changing. You got teams going from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten, like USC and UCLA, and teams like Texas and Oklahoma the next couple of years going to the SEC. So a lot of shakeup, but not yet this year, which leaves the ability for these nice big matchups to be out of conference, much like Cincinnati taking on Arkansas. Cincinnati coming in hot last year, having a great season, losing Desmond Ridder, some key pieces in that offense. So they dropped to 23rd to start in the rankings, but at least plenty of room if they want to repeat as they take on Arkansas to start the season. You expecting similar results from Cincinnati, or they're probably going to lose a little bit of that touch under, I think it's Luke Fickell?
Yeah, Luke Fickell, ex-Ohio State coach. Definitely, they lost that, what's his name, Sauce Gardner on the defense, who was outstanding for them. So Cincinnati is definitely a big question mark this year. But hopefully, that'd be cool to have Cincinnati sort of be this year in, year out contending for the playoffs. And I don't think they looked awful last year either in the playoffs. So they held their own to an extent, and it's really up to them how far they want to go this season. Arkansas is a big test, though. Big test.
Right. And Cincinnati's probably thinking, where's our Big Ten bid? Why don't we get the invite? They've been fighting hard these past couple of years. Luke Fickell is definitely building that program. But Arkansas, I understand Pittman, again, another former Georgia coach, has always got them big boys in Arkansas moving. Mm-hmm. So he'll be looking to improve upon what they did last year. He got a big contract with them. But that's going to be a 23 versus 19 matchup. And then Clemson, a team that underperformed last season, didn't win an ACC championship, did not get into the college football playoff, taking on Georgia Tech, and a Tech team that is pretty abysmal. But they'll be kicking off on Monday night at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So 2 games in Atlanta downtown. I'm sure the Tigers will roll over the Yellow Jackets. But if not, this is a litmus test to see what Clemson's going to show up. Is it the Clemson team that's been in the playoff year in and year out, or is it a Clemson team that is on a downward trend under Dabo Swinney? Georgia Tech might be the ones to determine the trajectory of Clemson's season. Utah taking on the Florida Gators. That one, a Utah team that's trying to impress early to get those playoff voters looking at them throughout the season as they take on Florida. A big win for them could potentially throw them up close to the top 5, barring any changes in those rankings. And then as we're filming this one now, it's probably wrapping up. West Virginia took on Pitt, the ACC champions, the Pittsburgh Panthers. West Virginia getting in JT Daniels from Georgia on a transfer. That quarterback has had a change of scenery 3 times now, from USC to Georgia, now to Morgantown in West Virginia, the Mountaineers. So, yeah, that's some of the games that are on the weekend lineup. Some good matchups, definitely to get your Saturday going, get your picks in, get your jerseys ready, get your face paint if you're really into that. But more or less, football is back, and a busy weekend in sports with baseball, soccer, football. It's all here.
Everything's going on.
A sports fan. I know. I love it. It's always a great time to be a sports fan, early and late into the fall. But really talking about our predictions today. Some current Heisman frontrunners. We had Bryce Young last year, who really just impressed. An interesting year for Alabama. Really steamrolled through the season. They beat Georgia in the SEC championship. Things were looking good. Things were looking great. And then a matchup with the Dogs in Indianapolis saw them fall short with injuries, I think, to Jameis Williams, I think, in the title game. And, they saw them fall short. Georgia, more or less, I would call it dominated that game. It was a couple scores that put them ahead to get the national championship. But Bryce Young is a Heisman frontrunner once again. And I think he'll have reason to think he might repeat. This is a guy that's got the talent. He's a little undersized. People talk about that a little bit, but he's mobile. He's smart. He makes good decisions looking down the field. And I don't know, is this one of your favorites to pick the Heisman this year, or what are you thinking along those lines?
Yeah, definitely Bryce Young. Actually, I didn't think he had a great year last year. I know his stats say differently, but in game, just wasn't 100%. And I think he was only a freshman last year, so obviously there's a ton of room to grow. This year you're going to see probably the last we'll ever see of Bryce Young. He might move on to the NFL next year. I know he's high up on some of the mock drafts. But yeah, definitely one of the front runners. Obviously, like we said earlier, CJ Stroud, another amazing freshman year last year. This dude can sling it. That's for sure. At times looked a little bit scared, shell-shocked in some games. But again, stepping into a sophomore season, I think it's really going to be between these two only, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. There'd have to be like a crazy injury, or I don't know. I don't know what would have to happen if it wasn't going to be either of these guys.
Right. And yeah, last year was Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan, the defensive lineman or defensive edge, was a front runner coming down the stretch, but he fell short. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to be a voter, I guess, kind of comparing offensive production versus defensive production. But yeah, I don't see anyone else really competing firmly, strongly. It's going to be between those two guys. I think those will be the two headliners. Yeah, Caleb Williams from USC, making the move from Oklahoma, which I thought was sort of strange. Maybe he's had a really good relationship with Lincoln Riley as he became the new USC head coach, which again, no allegiance in any of these sports anymore. No, Lincoln Riley, is he afraid of the SEC? Was the money just that good at USC, the program there that's been, more or less non-existent since 2006, in the days of Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush. It's every single year. Is Texas back? No. Is USC back? No. There's so many teams it feels like that these sports media teams talk about. Are the New York Knicks back? No. It's just every year there's these teams from the big markets that the media wants to do on. I don't know. USC probably has some. Yeah, you can't.
You gotta try to hype them up and do something. I mean, they get millions and millions and millions of dollars from boosters every year. So
right, and I'll throw this in too. This is actually something we probably should have mentioned. The idea is Donovan Mitchell getting traded from the Utah Jazz, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Stephen A. Smith is saying, "My New York Knicks, I'm making another move. Like, it's embarrassing to be a New York fan, especially the Knicks.
Are we digging at the Knicks right now? Come on.
Come
You
on.
can't
I
do that
got
this
as a
time.
Hawks
You're
fan, I have
biased.
to.
You're biased.
Trae Young's the father of the Knicks.
It's true. It's true.
But anyways, back to football. I think there'll be some growing pains for USC's program. Year one, got to find some identity under Lincoln Riley. I'm sure they'll probably win the Pac-12. But will that be enough for them to get into the college football playoff? Probably not. Just considering the strong teams like Ohio State, like Georgia, Alabama, Texas A&M's a big question mark. They might be a team that, let's just say they beat Alabama, probably have a straight shot to the SEC championship. They go in with one loss, maybe lose. So let's just say Georgia, a 2-loss A&M probably gets in over a 1-loss USC. That's just the discussion that's usually goes down, as these SEC teams usually have that bias over Pac-12 teams, considering that it's just a weaker conference. But yeah, I think if I had to have like a dark horse though for the Heisman race, Brock Bowers, tight end from UGA last year, just had an incredible season. I mean, it just felt like every single game this kid scored. He was a freshman last year.
Yeah, he's a beast.
He had 56 receptions, 882 yards, and 13 touchdowns. 13 touchdowns as a freshman tight end. So if he can come anywhere close to replicating that, I know Stetson Bennett's back under the center. He's been his guy. You lose Jermaine Burton to Alabama. You lose George Pickens to the NFL. So Brock Bowers in one of the best tight end rooms in the nation, having Darnell Washington, Big O. He'll be a big target for Stetson, which has me thinking he could be a Heisman dark horse. A tight end I don't think has ever won. But at this point, he's just a big old wide receiver that gets plenty of targets and can move down the field and score some touchdowns. So kind of an interesting pick, maybe a little bit of bias, but realistically, like, he's got the talent to do it. It's just a matter of the production that Georgia can produce this year. Who would you have as your dark horse pick?
That's a really great shout. It's really hard for a tight end to win a trophy like this. But if he's scoring every single game, putting up the yards like he was doing last year as a freshman, you expect him to grow in that. So maybe hitting 1,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, maybe.
Pretty incredible.
We'll see how Georgia's offense is. I still think there's a lot of question marks there. But definitely a good shout. This guy, I think, was in the final Heisman running last year, but it's Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama. He's a linebacker. I think he can play some DN too. Just a freak athlete, of course. Had 17 and a half sacks last year, which was first overall. He had a bunch of other stats too. I couldn't find them, but absolute animal. Better than Aiden Hutchinson last year. This guy might go first overall in the next draft. Could very, very easily, I don't know about easily, but could win the Heisman if it wasn't for his teammate Bryce Young,
right?
keeping him out of it. And obviously, as a defensive player, it's really, really hard to win it. We saw with like Chase Young a couple years ago, even the Bosa brothers. You can be the best in the country by a mile and still not get recognized as the Heisman. So it is what it is. You know what I'm surprised about, though? We don't have any running backs on here.
Yeah, I think the best running back I think I know is a kid from Texas.
Yeah, that's what I saw, too. I think he has the best odds in the preseason Heisman stuff. But
I can't remember his name right now, but I think he's sort of been on the brink of just a breakthrough. And it could be his year if Texas is back. If Texas is back.
Is it Bijan Robinson?
I think that sounds
last
right,
name
yeah.
Robinson? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, running backs, it's just such a weird, transition in the sport, really. Running backs somewhat being relegated out, especially like in the NFL, like their value is just sort of plummeted in some ways, like just so much turnover. It's such a strange thing. But in college football, there's plenty of room for them to impress. But let's talk about the college football playoff, the Final Four. What do we think about that? I think it made the news. Desmond Howard from ESPN and College Game Day. You saw his Final Four pick, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what he said. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
I got it. I've got it in
You do?
front of
Okay.
me. So just to remind you, the viewers and listeners, Desmond Howard, lovely guy,
Heisman
funny,
winner. Played
Heisman
at
winner.
Michigan.
The last defensive player to win the Heisman, I believe.
I think he played both ways too.
He did.
Insane.
And his college football playoff picks were Texas A&M, Pittsburgh, Baylor, and Michigan, with a Michigan Texas A&M national championship and the Aggies winning it. Now, Desmond is either the smartest man on the planet or the dumbest analyst on ESPN staff. I mean, the Baylor Bears, the Pittsburgh Panthers. I can maybe let A&M slide. I said that earlier. 2 loss, 1 loss, A&M maybe slides in. Michigan,
especially with all the recruits, good coach
right.
at A&M.
Big Ten, Michigan wins, fine.
He has to say that.
But there's no way that Georgia or Alabama, one of them does not get in, I think. Just realistically, I think one of them is going to make it.
Yeah, it'd have to be a crazy, crazy year for one of those guys not to make it. I think it'd have to be a crazy year for Alabama not to make it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing earlier before that set, or if they just handed it, maybe they wrote it for him and say this will be awesome. We'll get a ton of clicks, which they did. So I wonder if he was fed that by the producers, but insane. Like I don't think. I wonder what the odds are on that. I'm sure someone's calculated the odds of Pitt making it, Baylor making it, whatever else.
I'm sure he probably has some money on it that if they get it, he's going to make a lot of money.
He might as well.
Unlikely. But realistically, though, like if you had to pick 4 teams, who would you throw in? What are you expecting your playoff to look like?
Obviously, I'll throw Ohio State in there. I think they will go undefeated this year. And yeah, probably have the best. Well, maybe not the best in the country because there's always teams that just have crazy numbers, but in the higher ranking teams, probably the best offense in the country. With obviously CJ Stroud and Jackson Smith and Jigba coming back. Obviously, the wide receiver room is absolutely stacked at Ohio State. So who knows who's going to come next? Trayvon Henderson, running back, had a really good year last year as a freshman. We'll see what he can do. But so OSU, obviously Alabama, I think will make it in some way, shape, or form. I think Clemson will be back. Unfortunately, I know no one really likes that or wants that. But Dabo Swinney and his boys will be back in the fight if they don't lose to Georgia Tech, which they definitely could because they almost did last year. By the way, and I think Oregon will make it. I think Oregon might play a close game against Georgia. Oregon's quarterback transfer from Auburn, Bo Nix, who is probably a senior at this point, didn't really play well for Auburn, to be honest. But maybe his veteran presence takes them over the edge with all of their talent that they get up there. I think a 1-loss Oregon gets in over a 1-loss Georgia maybe at the end of the year. I don't know. It depends. That's my shout. Not really set on that, to be honest, but if I had to pick 4, throw those in there. Boring.
Well, yeah, it is. You can never tell. Like you have losses that come with, field goal, or it might be 24 points someone loses by. The quality of the wins and the losses obviously is what comes into account. Impossible to predict that this early on, but right. Yeah, I just said earlier, I think realistically you're going to have one of, if not both, Georgia and Alabama. Safe to assume Alabama. I would definitely say Ohio State, if they're the Big Ten champs, really not a super insane schedule, but getting a win over Notre Dame, top 5 team. You're going to have Michigan coming to Ohio State in the last game of the season. Another big game that was decisive last year, the first time Michigan beat you guys in years. So a lot to prove for the Buckeyes. I would probably put my money on them to win the Big Ten. And then realistically, the SEC champion, whether it be Georgia, Alabama. I'll exclude Georgia for now. So we have Alabama, Ohio State, and then something probably like Clemson will be back in it just based off of their pedigree in the past, I would bet. And then, I don't know. Maybe Michigan does impress again. Maybe it comes down to y'all are both undefeated come November. Maybe you lose to them in the regular season, and then they, you beat them in the Big Ten championship. I don't know.
So I think we're on the same side, so I don't know if we could do that.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So then, that's an interesting take. Then I still think it's
Ohio
possible.
State to a Michigan Big Ten, sort of like the Georgia-Alabama debate, right? Depending on what the teams actually look like at the end of the year.
Sort of going, I guess, with the Desmond route, finding something fun, a little different. The odds are, though, you have Alabama's number one team, odds-wise, who are favored to win. Ohio State's second. Georgia, Clemson, USC is coming in at fifth.
Interesting. Very
A&M, sixth. Michigan 7th, Notre Dame 8th, Oklahoma 9th, and then Texas 10th. So those are the odds makers. That's what they have. Again, Texas is Steve Sarkisian still the head coach there, I think. It's just like, I don't know if Sark has in them to make Texas relevant. They just been, what a program. What a program. But yeah, I guess the dark horse really would be probably Michigan sneaking in there in the playoff. After that pretty embarrassing loss to Georgia in the Orange Bowl, they might be looking for some redemption coming down the line. But, excited to have college football back. A fun discussion about what we want to see, some Heisman odds, and just enjoy the kickoff from the season. But for us two, it's all about the Prim. Match week 4 has passed, and the deadline has passed for the transfers. So it's been busy. Teams like Nottingham Forest have been insanely busy. Fulham making some deadline moves. Chelsea making some really big signings. We'll kind of cover some of the big ones that have kind of changed the landscape of the transfer market, especially coming down the line. That was really important. Tottenham, though, they made a formal signing from Christian Romero, getting him on a permanent fee from Atalanta for 55 million euros. A big one for us. Just getting him, selling his future with Tottenham until I think 2026 or so. Bournemouth, they get center back Jack Stevens on loan from Southampton to try and find some stability after that trouncing from Liverpool. Finding some stability in the back. Fulham, like I said, they were making some moves. They signed left back Levin Kurzawa on loan from PSG. They brought in Carlos Vinicius, who was a Tottenham loanee in 2021 from Benfica for only about £4.5 million, which his option to buy for Tottenham 2 years ago was $40 million. So that's a really good deal for Fulham to get him to work up there on top with Mitrovic, who been making some noise. Dan James comes in on loan from Leeds. Hopefully he can get some playing time with them. And then they bring in the Brazilian Willian, the Chelsea and Arsenal reject, who had gone back to Brazil to Corinthians, I believe it was, and comes back to the Premier League, Brandon, making some waves with Fulham. Are you a little thrown off by this?
Yeah, they've been sound, and I think they're a good team. But this Willian signing is out of left field. Probably the worst signing of the transfer window. Hopefully his wages aren't high because he was not playing well when he was at Arsenal. I think he was back in Brazil. They either cut him or agreed to terminate the contract. I think it might have been.
Right.
Why in the world are they trying to bring this guy back to life? I wish him all the best, really, but that is a waste of money, an absolute waste of money. I'd rather play a 19-year-old up-and-coming player than spend. I don't even know how much he's on. Probably $200,000 a week on Fulham, and I don't think he'll play. I don't think he'll play at all.
It is crazy. Yeah, he is 32 or 3. I want to say he is now, getting up there in age at this point. Yeah, his Arsenal contract probably would have been close to ending, but it's just strange. I guess Fulham just they're desperate for some production, and maybe he can do something. But yeah, it'll probably be a stretch of a signing for them. But Man United, they get in Martin Dubravka on loan from Newcastle United after loaning out Dean Henderson and having David De Gea as the front man. Just some depth to have, I guess, for their European campaign to give Dave some off time. Everton get Idrissa Gueye back from PSG after a short stint with them for £8 million. And you can kind of list off a couple of the next ones, starting off with Leicester.
Yeah, they finally signed somebody. Oh man, Wout Faes. Let's just say that's how you pronounce his name. From Stade de Reims, for £15 million. I think Stade de Reims, aren't they in No, I think maybe they're in the Europa League.
Yeah, I don't think they're in Champions League.
They're not in Champions League. I think they're in the Europa League this year. So I don't know. We'll see. You know, Leicester always has an eye for these type of transfers. He'll come in, maybe sure up. I think he plays defense. So we'll really see what that brings to them. Is that enough? The answer is no, but we'll get into that later. My team, Aston Villa, poor Aston Villa. They signed Dendoncker from Wolves for a good fee, about £13 million. Really good midfielder, played a lot of games in the Premier League, tall, can play multiple positions. Actually really excited about this signing. People are slagging him off on Twitter. Really good signing, in my opinion. And another good signing, Jan, oh my God, Bednarek, the center back on loan from Southampton. I think there might be an option to buy. Probably won't do it. But tall, again, a lot of Premier League experience. These are just sure signings, you know. I'm going to shore up the team a little bit, strengthen our roster, and Lord knows we need it at this moment in time. Probably, maybe, I don't know if it's the most exciting, but definitely pretty crazy. Nottingham Forest signed their 19th, 20th, and 21st signing.
It's insane.
Of the transfer window.
Insane.
I wonder what the record is, because I think this might be it. I think they might be setting a record for.
And I think they also, I don't think it's been formalized, but I think they're bringing in Serge Aurier also on a deal.
Yeah.
I think it's like, as he's technically a free agent or something, basically.
Oh, I guess they could sign him whenever.
So
they might have a 22nd signing.
Like,
that's
just imagine
that's a whole new squad.
Coming into the summer, you're thinking, all right, we'll get promoted, feeling good about with the chops. And then season starts and there's 23 new people in the locker room. It's like, it's pretty insane. Pretty remarkable, especially for a team that's been out of the league for 22 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So they're trying to put their stamp on the league, and they're doing it with a record number of signings.
Yeah, they're going for it. Center back Willy Bolly from Wolves, winger Josh Bowler from Blackpool. They actually just loaned him back out, so he's technically not on the team anymore. But then center back Loic Beatty, let's just say that's how you pronounce it, on loan from Stade Rennais. That'll be interesting. We'll see what that does for them. I think it's a great transfer window for them. A lot of sensible signings, a lot of I don't know if assured is the word, but calculated signings, calculated risks. Nottingham Forest, they're gonna stay up. They're gonna stay up. Yeah.
That's staff guaranteed right there.
Guaranteed.
Wow.
I swear they're gonna stay up.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's definitely saying something. I mean, yeah, it's hard when you do that much to not think you could stay up. I think that's just a panic buy, maybe some of those from them. But at the end of the day, they'll see it as reinforcements to help them stay up. Much like Man City continues to get reinforcements just because they have an endless pocketbook. Manuel Akanji coming from Borussia Dortmund for £15 million. Southampton getting Coletta Carr from Marseille for close to £9 million. And then Liverpool on loan getting Arthur from Juventus, who's only 26 years old. And he's moved teams 4 times, it feels like. A strange career, but with the injury to Thiago Alcantara, he's been sidelined for a bit. This will kind of shore up that midfield position. Arthur can offer a little bit. I mean, he hasn't been as productive, I think, as of late, but maybe a new fresh start in Liverpool will be something for him. And including fresh start, more or less just a loop coming back. I think this is probably the most notable, perhaps, signing on deadline day, I would argue. What did Chelsea do to shore up their offense?
We had mentioned in a couple of the previous podcasts who Chelsea was rumored with signing a striker, Aubameyang. Yes, Aubameyang is back to the Premier League from Barcelona for about a $10.3 million pound fee plus Marcus Alonso. I know Barcelona was trying to get Marcus Alonso all summer. They finally made a deal to make it happen. Aubameyang, are you surprised to see this? How well can he do for Chelsea this year? We know they've been crying for a striker. They have one.
Okay, it's still, I think I said this 5 times, it feels like, either mentally or out loud. I just don't know what the heck Barcelona's doing. They make these signings 6 months ago. We're going to bring in Aubameyang from Arsenal. He does somewhat well. Bring in Memphis Depay. Both of them now are basically like either linked to leave or did leave. It's just so strange. I don't know if they just hated Barcelona or what, but sort of strange. But coming back to London as an Arsenal player, maybe his time was that bad mentally for him, where he's sort of spiting Arsenal and saying, you know, look what I'm doing now, playing Champions League football, and he'll come and look to, you know, pounce on Arsenal when he gets a chance to show the Gunners who's boss. Sort of strange, I guess, from that point of view, but obviously for him, just the chance to play regular football in the Premier League
with Tuchel again.
Yeah, hard to pass up. His time with him at, I think it was Dortmund, right?
Dortmund, yeah.
Yeah, to have that link up, familiarity is always good to have in the sport. Yeah, you know, good for him. He might, you know, be bounced pretty soon if he can't perform. And Tuchel will have to find a replacement in January. So it's a pretty, what was it, 13 million pounds or 10? So it's not a big investment, but it's probably a smart bit of business. After, especially they spent so much money on Fofana to bring him in. Chelsea's been splashing a little bit of cash. So this is a sensible deal for them, so I can respect that. And then they bring in Dennis Zakaria on loan from Juventus as well. So busy, close to the end of the window for Chelsea and the Blues. I'm sure that one will probably be more or less in exchange for Conte, right? Kind of them being interchangeable.
Yeah, this Dennis, I think it's Zakaria. Villa was actually linked with him last year, but I think he came from Mönchengladbach, maybe. Really, really good up-and-coming player. I think he's really young, maybe 23. This is their next defensive midfielder, you know, like that engine of the midfield. And it's a phenomenal signing. I honestly, and this isn't an overreaction, I don't think. Maybe I could throw this in there, but this is like these signings that they've made this summer could push them into second place. I thought they were there last year. I was mistaken, obviously, with Liverpool just being so good. But with things up in the air, Chelsea making some pretty good signings. I think the Aubameyang signing is good. You know, Christian Pulisic might get some playing time because they played together back in Dortmund. Maybe there's something there. Chelsea could really, really surprise people this year if they, you know, turn this ship around, this Tuchel ship around.
They've been treading water a little bit, definitely treading some water early on. But so we've been talking about this. There's so much time to turn things around, to right the ship, to start bailing out some water, shoring up that defense, bringing in Fofana. Things are looking up for the Blues for sure. But as someone that's been blue, a little sad. Being part of that Arsenal team, just can't get out of the squad. Hector Bellerin finally gets his move away from the Gunners. He had spent some good time at Real Betis, winning the Copa del Rey. I think it was over Barcelona or Madrid. I can't remember. So fun for him to get that trophy. And now he makes the move to the bigger squad in Spain. Barcelona, probably his dream place to play. A good move for him. Arsenal, at this point, have moved on, bringing Tomiyasu in to play his position. And Barcelona, having just loaned out, I think with option to buy or did buy Sergiño Dest to AC Milan. So pretty much direct replacement to play right back for them now.
Yeah. Barcelona, very interesting transfer window. I think we could have a whole podcast about that alone. So we will leave it there.
I'm sure the historians will look back on it and think, what was going on with that team?
Yeah, they will. Well, they don't exist
probably a
in 20
documentary
years.
about it. Yeah, if they exist, that's the thing. If they might be off the radar in 20 years' time, anything can happen. We've seen big clubs fall and go into bankruptcy and fail before. It's not to say that one of the biggest clubs in the world can't do it themselves. Well, that's the transfer deadline that just passed. A busy time. So many moves. I think £3.5 billion were spent over the summer window, which is insane. Obviously, the Premier League being the most spending to have happened there, but pretty incredible summer of moves. Well, Liverpool and Newcastle played in the midweek, and it was a stunner. Newcastle went up early, new signing Alexander Isak. He scored a goal in the 38th minute. This kid's big, he's tall, and he is ferocious. He's hungry to score goals, and he poached this one in the 38th minute. But Liverpool equalized in the 61st minute. And what happened in stoppage time, BPAT?
Well, Bobby Firmino can't stop scoring, so
yeah.
Good for him. What's crazy, I guess he's back on track.
In that 9-0 game, it was the first time he had scored at Anfield in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
which is insane.
Crazy. So maybe he'll have a huge role to play this year. I don't know, but sort of controversially, sort of not really, in my opinion. Last minute goal from young Fabio Carvalho in the 98th minute. I think there's only 5 minutes of added time there, but I think Nick Pope, the goalie for Newcastle, I won't say fake, but had an injury in stoppage time there that took about a minute and a half So, but still, that's another a minute and a half that they kept on to allow the goal. So there was some actual controversy over the game and how it ended, but amazing scenes at Anfield. The young kid puts it in the back of the net, and it goes down in history 2-1 to the Liverpool.
And already at this point, bringing Luis Diaz in the winter, and now Fabio Carvalho, those two guys seems like they've already won them 4 or 5 games. Obviously, this is the first one this season, but Liverpool making some good young signings. But does this put them back on track? Or there's still some kind of lingering doubts about them?
Yeah. I definitely have some doubts about them still. Their wins don't really look convincing. Again, having to score in the game that probably should have been over with before they scored it. But, you play to the whistle. They still have great players and one of the best coaches in the world, some of the best fans in the world. They're still going to be a solid team, but pushing Man City, I think that's really what we're talking about here.
Right.
I don't think they're back on that track. But as Liverpool always do, they find ways to grind out games, get results. And this is just another example of that. So maybe they are.
We'll have to see. West Ham and Tottenham played London going to the Olympic Stadium. And really, Tottenham lacked that kind of creative quality through the match. But it did just enough offensively on a counter in the 30th something minute, I think it was, to get a goal and force an own goal, ultimately forcing a draw with West Ham threatening most of the game. They looked the better side. The Hammers will definitely be disappointed to only walk away with a point, but Tottenham will be content staying unbeaten so far in the year. Did you watch this one? I know for me it was kind of a sigh of relief that it was over, especially in the 94th minute. West Ham had a ball that just went across the face of the goal with no one to tap in. I was like, oh my God, thank God. But yeah, it's good to be unbeaten, but West Ham definitely looked the better side on the day. Yeah,
they did. But I think that's just sort of Conte's style. We've seen it in the other games, even against Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest looked threatening, but were they ever actually? West Ham's a better team than Nottingham Forest. But West Ham, they need to figure out how to score goals. They brought in, I think, their highest transfer ever, Scamacca, from Italy. He needs to start putting him in the back of the net here shortly, or they're going to start calling him a bust. He hasn't gotten a lot of time either, but yeah. West Ham, they could probably feel hard done by this. They definitely were better on the day. But Tottenham getting points, not dropping a lot of points here, staying in the mix up top. This is what they're going to be all year, I think. So I wouldn't expect to see a similar game to this again under Conte this year.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll look to improve. Much like there's so much room for improvement for both of these sides, one of them trajecting up and one of them trajecting down. Man United and Leicester City. This one ended 1-0 in favor of Man United. Jadon Sancho scores in back-to-back games. Leicester really failed to create much. Man U, I mean, they didn't look outstanding, but again, they did enough to get over the line, and they got the win. But really, for me, the point isn't so much Man United kind of rebounding from an embarrassing start to the season, but really the clock is ticking right now for the Foxes, which sort of brings me to the overreactions a little bit. And my overreaction is being that Brendan Rodgers in 2 months' time won't be manager of Leicester City. And depending on how things go, he might be manager of your team, Aston Villa. Is that an overreaction for you?
I don't think that's an overreaction. I think he came out and started saying stuff about the club today and not getting enough investment after the game. So we saw how that worked out for Scott Parker at Bournemouth. Because I guess
got the sack he did.
Yeah, because he was talking so much is really why he got fired. I wouldn't hate it. Brendan Rodgers knows how to get a job done. His tenure typically lasts about 2.5 years, so I think he's at that point for Leicester, or his good tenure. No, I don't. I think that's definitely fair, and I think the managers of these three teams that we'll get into my overreaction might all be gone in 2 months' time, looking for new employers. Maybe we just switch them around and see what happens. My overreaction is Leicester, Everton, and Aston Villa will all be in a relegation battle this year. Two giants in Everton and Villa that haven't really reached those heights in a while. Leicester, who's won the Premier League more recently than both of them, have great investment from their owners. Seemed like they had a really good thing running. Look devoid of really any ideas this year. Everton, obviously not great. And Villa, good Lord, probably the worst out of the three, to be completely honest. I don't know how we're not bottom of the table. Leicester is, and I think Everton's above us by, I think we're tied on points, but maybe I think that, it's early in the season, so whatever, it's goal differential. But yeah, I think they'll all be in a relegation battle this year. And I hate to say that because that means my preseason predictions are wrongo. But
a bit out of whack, huh?
Villa, I don't want to talk about it really. They look absolutely abysmal. So maybe we're not going to get anything from this next game, but maybe the two after that.
Yeah, it is
tough. What do you think about that? Is that an overreaction?
I don't think it's an overreaction. I think, especially considering what happened last year, almost half the league got sacked. I don't think it's an overreaction to be thinking those thoughts, to be completely honest. It's tough. It's tough in the streets out here in the Premier League. It's dog-eat-dog world. And, Villa, Everton, and Leicester will certainly be the ones, I think, next in line if things don't go well for their clubs. Coming up now, we have our next games coming down the stretch. Everton and Liverpool, Merseyside derby. Anthony Gordon does stay at Everton. But really, how bad does it get for Everton in this game, in your opinion?
Oof. I don't know. I think they might have an okay chance. I know that's weird, but I think Liverpool, if we're thinking they're back on track, this could be ugly. It could be 3-0 or 3-1 with maybe Anthony Gordon pulling something, pulling a rabbit out of a hat. But that's going to be the only way they score, I think. Frank Lampard's just not a good enough manager to create a game plan for them to win this game. If they could hold on for a draw, that they'll count that as a win. But no, I really think Liverpool takes this. It is at Goodison Park though, so that's something to keep in mind. But Liverpool will definitely just be too much in the end, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on Everton to do much. It counts to having it at Goodison Park. I want to say, was it a draw last season? Did they draw Liverpool last season? Maybe.
I'll look it up real quick.
I can't remember, but maybe Frank and the boys can rally together for one game early on. Something that means something to them, get some momentum. But really, I feel like Liverpool is probably going to put them in the dirt. To be honest, it's just hard to get points against a Liverpool team that was struggling early on, and if they're going to put the pieces together now, it's a poor time to be playing them as they get rolling. It can go on an unbeaten streak potentially. They are very streaky in that sense, can go 13, 14, 15 games without losing. And Everton is a good place to continue to do so. Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth, two teams closer to the bottom. The 20-plus signings finishing off the window for Nottingham, as we said, looking to see how they begin to meld together. And Bournemouth, their second game without Scott Parker, is a pretty good time for Nottingham to secure 3 points, I would definitely say. And then Tottenham Fulham, a London derby, back home for Tottenham. Are you expecting Tottenham to improve upon their performance over their last game?
Yeah, I will. Also, I couldn't find that in my quick 10-second search. But yeah, I really do. Fulham, again, good team, going to be solid. We've seen how they've played a couple of teams this year. Pretty good games, but I think Tottenham might not mess around with Fulham because they could put them in some trouble. So I think Tottenham will keep a clean sheet. Mitrovic won't do his dirty magic. And I'll say a 3-0 Tottenham win. I know that sort of sounds crazy, but I think Sonny gets on the goals this year, starts his campaign. Kane obviously will get one, and maybe Son gets 2. Let's say Son gets 2 goals, Kane gets 1. It's a good day for Tottenham there.
See, now you're speaking my language. Talking about my boy Sonny getting on the starting sheet, which, of course, let's not forget what I said the other day. I said Richarlison was going to take him out of the lineup against West Ham. And I mean, again, Sonny's just not getting enough help to help him produce right now. Realistically, he'll need some involvement coming this next game against Fulham. I really think it'll probably be 4-1, to be honest. It's not going to be very close, and I do expect them to blow away Fulham. But, yeah, not too worried. At home, in front of the home fans, it'll be good for Tottenham to get 3 points. Take me through. We got Brentford and Leeds. Again, not a huge game. I think people will be looking at Man U versus Arsenal. Surging Man U taking on the top of the table Arsenal. Can United continue their run of form against the Flying Gooners? Undefeated Gooners at this point.
Yeah. Perfect Gooners. I think this is a very interesting game and probably by far the game of the week. I like derby games, so Merseyside derby with Everton Liverpool is up there, and that'll be really fun to watch probably. But Man U versus Arsenal, I think these two teams are obviously fighting for the same position. My preseason prediction had them both in the Europa League, but really they're going to be up there, switching spots probably all year, depending on the results. So, yeah, does Jadon Sancho keep scoring goals, finding himself in the right position? Quite possibly. Does Rashford keep playing a solid 60 minutes each game? Maybe. Does Ronaldo keep sitting? Probably.
Which is crazy. He's in 3 games he's been on the bench, which I think is the first time it's happened since 2006 or something crazy. It's incredible that you keep having this guy on the bench.
Yeah, it really is. All I'll say is Arsenal looks way better than Man U does. But when it comes to these big games, they always are a lot closer than you think they will be. I don't know, actually. There's been a lot of crazy blowouts in the past couple of years with some big games. But first, I think pretty real test for Arsenal, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see. We'll really see. Man U coming off, what is that, the second win in a row? Third win in a row? Second win in a row?
I think it's the third.
Yeah, they're going to be feeling good going into that home game against Arsenal. What do you think?
I think realistically it'll probably end in a draw. Just thinking about, Arsenal getting their first real test of the season. Man United coming off of that big win against Liverpool. I think it's their third straight win now. It's it's time for players to show where they belong. Does Ronaldo belong on the bench? Does Harry Maguire still belong on the bench? Do these guys like Elanga and Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford, is that your front three they're going to stick with for Man United? So, again, it's sort of one of those games where you find out who you are as a team and if you're going to stick together with what you have going that's been working, or if it's time for Ten Hag to kind of mix in Ronaldo with Sancho and Rashford, or, whoever it is, So we'll see. We'll see how it ends up. Casemiro also came off the bench. He hasn't even put in the starting lineup. I'm sure a game against Arsenal, probably a good time for him to begin. Probably coming in over McTominay, I would imagine. But, definitely the game of the weekend. I agree with you. It's going to be a fun one to watch. Probably like a 2-2 draw, I would imagine. Maybe Ronaldo comes on the 70th minute, gets a game-tying goal. That'd be something I would expect for him to follow the script that way. He tried to go with the bicycle kick a little unsuccessfully, but dramatic nonetheless with him. So a great slate of games for the Premier League. So much to watch, including the MLS. Our Fast Five is usually where we land close to the end of these episodes. Minnesota is taking on FC Dallas. We're going to make this one quick mentally. I'm taking Dallas. They need some points to finish out in the West. I'll take them 2-0 over the Loons. What about you?
Yeah, it's in Minnesota. I'm going to go with 2-2 draw. Both these teams are good. Getting towards the end of the season where they're trying to shore up their playoff roster. Yeah, 2-2. I think it's going to be a draw.
And Minnesota doesn't lose often at home, so getting a big win for Dallas if that happens on my side. New York Red Bull taking on the Flying Phils. Union coming off a 4-1 win over Atlanta United. Big tears for the boys. Still in playoff contention in the East. But Red Bull is sitting behind the Union. Philadelphia coming to New Jersey for this one. Probably in favor of the Union. Yeah, I'd probably say they looked, better than United. I'm sure they can continue to stay hot. They'll probably win 1-0 against the Red Bull.
Yeah, I'm going for more goals because Philadelphia seems to be scoring a ton. They figured it out on the offensive side. But New York Red Bulls, good team. I'll say 3-2 Philly, though.
Okay. I can respect that. Nashville taking on Austin FC, who looked incredible against LAFC. Nashville at home, though, could make a big difference for the traveling Verde. 2-2 draw late. Nashville holding off some late opportunities from Austin. From Fagundes was the MLS MVP frontrunner. 2-2 draw, though, sounds good for me.
Yeah, I think it'll be a draw as well. Both these teams are probably the hottest teams other than Philly in the league right now, with Henry Mukhtar for Nashville just absolutely tearing things up as of late. I'm going to go with a 3-3 draw, though. It'll be very, very exciting in Nashville.
And the aforementioned Atlanta United making the trip out to Portland. I think the last time we were there, we saw red, I want to say, in the game. And we desperately need points. So this is the time for Atlanta United. If they want to come down the stretch and make a playoff run, they got to get points and 3 points in games like this. So for the love of God, Atlanta United, please, please, please win this one. Like 3-1. Just please for me. Come on. I need you to do it. 3-1 for the United, please, for the Five Stripes.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Portland coming off of a win against Seattle, which is a pretty big win for them. Atlanta United still bad in defense, semi-decent in offense. I think they'll win 2-1. Hey, we'll see.
Hey, come on, the boys. LAFC taking on Real Salt Lake. Gareth Bale needs to have a solid star performance for LAFC. He hasn't had one yet. I think it's time for him to take over a game. 2 goals for him, I think, coming this one, and I'll see LAFC probably win 3-2. They've been struggling defensively. Chiellini not making a big difference so far for them, but I think Gareth Bale gets a double finally for LAFC and wins 3-2.
Yeah, I was actually right there in that camp with you. Gareth Bale brace. LAFC wins 2-1 over Real Salt Lake.
Okay, very good. Well, this is our 35th episode. This has been fun. Doing the Bad Fan, we got, like we said, college football. The Premier League is in full swing. MLS is coming into that playoff push. We're, a week or two away from the NFL as well. So many sports to watch. Baseball is approaching its postseason. It's a good time to be a sports fan, man. Where are you going to be watching the games from this weekend? Finding a place to post up or staying at home?
Yeah, I'll be in Cincinnati this weekend.
That's right. I keep forgetting.
Yes. So I'll be in Cincinnati all day Saturday. So I'll be trying to find a sports bar of some sort to watch the Premier League games, all the early kickoffs for college football. Maybe some baseball mixed in there. Who knows? Okay. Whatever's on the telly, I'll watch. So I think it's gonna be a fun weekend though, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, enjoy the company. I know you've been looking forward to it, and I'll try and take some good pictures for you and everybody from Colombia.
You have to show us when you bring them back in our next episode next week.
I'm just hoping I don't miss easy shots, like something out of focus. I'll just blame my camera. It's not my fault.
You won't. You'll be perfect.
No, I'll be fine. But yeah, I got some exciting stuff to share with the Panthers. Got some fun uniform stuff that I'll be posting as well. So it's an exciting time. But that's going to do it for us today on The Bad Fan. Thank you for listening and watching along. If you've been on YouTube, go ahead and leave a like. Maybe leave a comment about your predictions, whether it be soccer, football, Heisman prediction. We just want to interact with you guys, the fans. Tell us why you're a bad fan. What are you upset about with your team right now? All of it is an open discussion. We would love to interact with you, maybe on Twitter or Instagram. You can find us there at The Bad Fan. And if you've been on Spotify, thanks for listening along. We hope our voices have been nice and smooth for you today. It's been fun to get to do this with you guys, and we hope you enjoy your weekend sports and enjoy your life. Fall is coming. Can't wait to wear those jackets. But again, thank you for supporting The Bad Fan. Brandon and I are signing off for today. Stay well, enjoy, and we will see you guys next time. Until then, peace.